On August 29, 2024, my best friend died. He had a lot of nicknames, but he was mostly known as Jake, and he was the best dog I ever had. As far as I know, there are two types of silences. One that brings peace, and one that echoes in absence. Well, things are definitely a lot more quiet now.
And when I say things are a lot more quiet now, I don't mean that he was noisy or anything. He wasn't. But I talked to him throughout the day and, sing songs to him all the time. And I wonder what goes through a dog's head when a human sings to them. Maybe they think we're completely insane. Who knows? But he got sung to all the time. Most of the time the songs were just his name, like the lyrics were just his name over and over. Jake, Jakey Jake, Mr. Jacob Smith. We gave him his own last name for some reason. Yeah, that's what they were, and he put up with it. But I guess adjusting to these changes is just a part of grief.
Here I'm leveling off the grave. We put these bricks by his head so in time, when the grass grows over and the grave blends in with the rest of the yard, I won't forget where he is. It looked like something either tried to dig into it near the bricks, or maybe the dirt just collapsed some as it settled. I'm not sure. And I didn't properly level the grave off before, so that's what I'm doing here. I guess I just couldn't bring myself to do it before. His loss was one of the hardest I've ever dealt with. For at least a month or more, I had a hard time concentrating, and in some ways it was difficult to make this video. But I guess grief doesn't really have a timeline. This is a picture of my mom and an out-of-focus Jake there in the corner. My mom passed a few years ago, and maybe his loss was harder because of that. Or maybe it would have been just as hard anyway, who knows. I had heard the idea that the grief you feel after a death is equal or proportional to the love you shared with the loved one who died. And I think there's some truth to that. The greater the love, the harder the loss. But besides just being a source of love and entertainment, in some ways I can say he was inspiring to me.
Back in February, he had a stroke, and right after that, he couldn't walk. That first day, he couldn't really move anything other than his head, so he could still at least eat and drink okay. But for all intents and purposes, he was bedridden. And after the first few days, I just thought, okay, well, I guess this is our new normal now. Well, a few days later, I'd find him in a slightly different spot on the floor the next day. So he was at least able to scoot along the floor a little bit. But after the initial shock of the stroke, I just thought, this was the extent of any sort of walking ability he'd get back. And this was how things were for about 6 days. But that last day, he was really putting a lot of effort into trying to move. Just panting and really trying to push hard with his back legs and wearing himself out. Me, being a little pessimistic, thought it was a lost cause and he was just wearing himself out for no reason. Well, the next day I stepped out of the house for a few minutes, and when I came back he was standing up and walking. So he could walk a little at that point. He would get tired easily and have to lay down a lot, and his gait was a little wonky, but I mean, he could still walk. His walk never was quite the same after that. He would kind of throw his right front leg out to the side a little, but he did get to the point that he could walk just fine on his own. But seeing him walk again, after thinking he never would, that was without a doubt one of the happiest moments of my life.
I found it really inspiring that he kept working at it and working at it until he was finally able to do what he was trying to do, until he was able to walk again. It just made me think that there's something to learn from them, our pets. And not only can they provide us with unconditional love or make us laugh when they have the zoomies, but maybe they can inspire us in the ways that we need them to. In my case, to just never stop trying. If you have a goal that seems insurmountable, just put one foot in front of the other, no matter how tiny each step is, no matter the setbacks you might have, and if you never stop, you'll never fail. He didn't give up. Neither should I, and if you need to hear this, neither should you. Those last video clips were from him at a dog park when he was almost 4 years old. As you could see, he was clearly having a great time that day. I thought I'd wind this video down with a few more pictures and videos of him. Earlier I said in some ways it was hard to make this video, but in others it was kind of cathartic. Initially the idea was to avoid it, like I did when I didn't want to go out to his grave after we buried him. And I think you might have to do that in the beginning. For a while there, just looking at pictures of him was hard. But they say time heals all wounds, and while I still feel a tug at my heart when I look at a picture of him, and I know I always will, I feel less the initial gut punch of his passing and more all the good memories he's given me. Jake, you were my best little buddy for almost 16 years. I wasn't expecting to have a puppy come into my life when you did, but I wouldn't change that for the world. We had a great adventure together. Gave a lot of love, a lot of laughs. Maybe even taught me a thing or two. And I'll never forget you.